Hello everybody, today I'm here to review Allegiant by Veronica Roth. Now depending on where you are in this series, I've left a link in the description box below for my review of Divergent and my review for Insurgent. I'm only going to be focusing on Allegiant, and if you haven't read either of the first two books, you're not going to want to watch this non-spoiler portion because it's going to spoil the first two books for you. Allegiant picks up with Tris in prison, and you realize that it's probably been a couple of hours since the end of Insurgent. We see Tris and some of the other people from her group, such as Christina and Marcus, in this prison cell, awaiting their judgment in a way, trying to figure out, are they going to be killed or are they going to be allowed to live? And we also see Tris being very calm and thoughtful and very level-headed for once. She wants to think before she acts. Now on the other hand, we have Tobias, who is actually his mom's right-hand man currently, and he's going down to warn her that there is something going on. Now Tris knows that the Divergent, including herself, need to leave the city and they need to go out and help. Whatever is out there in the world, whatever they need to do, they need to go. And Tobias understands, but he doesn't know how he can help. And so things start to go on from there. You do know that the Divergent, especially Tris, wants to leave the city, but you don't know how that is really going to come about. Is she going to be able to leave the city, or is she going to end up being killed in this prison cell? Now, I thought that the author did a really good job not only expanding the world that we are reading of. Books for MKs, my friend Kaylee, I've left a link to her channel down below, actually mentioned in a comment for Insurgent the fact that each book the author unravels more of the world for you. And I'm not taking credit for this because Kaylee was all brilliant at this point. She stated the fact that in the first book you see Tris realizing that there is more to the actual setting, like not just in the abnegation but also in the Dauntless compound. In book 2 you end up seeing the whole city as a whole. You end up seeing all of the actual districts. And in Allegiant we're actually taken outside the city into the world. And I thought that was very well done. I think that the author really expanded her world more. She didn't just keep in this little cardboard cutout of what a dystopian should be. In fact, the author, again, she made you doubt everything that you originally thought you believed from Insurgent. And I think it's interesting the fact that the author can really change your opinion a lot more than you expect. She's actually able to take things that you are like, yes, I understand that, I believe it, and then she does something else and you're like, okay, now I don't believe it. And she just really makes you realize that not everything is what it appears. The author really gave quite a surprise in this story that when you open it for the first chapter, you see Tris's name. And you end up seeing the fact that it's going to be in dual point of view. You don't just have Tris's point of view, you have Tris and Tobias' point of view. I've never actually seen an author go and change up the writing style the last book, changing it from being one point of view to dual point of view. I'm going to go into a spoilery talk, so when this book disappears, I'm going to start talking spoilers, and you do not want to hear that if you haven't read this yet. The first thing I'm going to mention, the author took this dystopian world and actually flipped it into a post-apocalyptic world, and I thought that was very cool as well, because I've never seen an author completely and drastically change everything you believed. The fact that the actual city was just this compound that was being used as a research project, I thought that was brilliant. And it really made you realize that this probably couldn't be too far in the future. It's probably one that could be, say, maybe 50 years from now. And it just felt very realistic. It didn't feel like it was something extremely futuristic now. Now, starting at the start of the story, you end up seeing this switch in Tris and Tobias' characters. You see Tris being this calm, level-headed character who wants to think before she acts and rationalize things out. And then you have Tobias, who is just this irrational, illogical person who wants to act before he thinks. And you really see him being very agitated throughout most of the story and not really thinking before he does things. He doesn't fully comprehend what's going on. I originally started when we were introduced to Nia disliking her. I thought she was an evil villain in disguise because honestly, going and talking to someone privately, that's a little weird, first off. And second off, when she goes to take him to see other GDs, even though she uses it as a negative term, she still continues to be like, we're going to see the GD. She doesn't say we're going to go and see other people like Triss would say. Unfortunately, Tobias should have clued in when Nia wouldn't allow him to sit in that meeting, and you kind of see how it kind of affects different parts of the story because he's not in that room. He can't tell you what is going to happen. In getting more information with regards to Triss's mother, she actually wasn't born in this project. She was born in the outside world in another project. You also see that she lived in this airport. I thought that was interesting. I was trying to figure out how the cover was going to play a part of the story like the other two, and you realize they're living in an airport for most of the story, and I think that's going to be brilliant when you actually want to see the third film. When you want to see Allegiant, it's going to take place in this airport, and it looks really cool just even reading it. Cool to see the relationships building up in this airport that probably wouldn't have happened in the actual project. You see Uriah and Christina and you think, oh, these two, they're going to get together. It's perfect because when Uriah said that he was going to go, he mentioned something about you guys are going to need some eye candy and I can provide that. And it's just perfect. Uriah's statements, he has these one-liners that are so hilarious. They just tickle my funny bone and they really make me fall in love with his character even more. Unfortunately, the scene with Uriah being near the wall that gets blown up, I was really scared that he was going to die. And then you find out that he is in the hospital and you think he's going to make it. And then you find out that he is brain dead, and it just, Veronica Roth likes to rip my heart out, stab it a couple times, put it on ice, and then re-surgically implant it in my body because honestly, I loved Uriah from the moment I met him, and I cared about Uriah more than Triss and Tobias' relationship, and probably more than Triss and Tobias, if I'm being honest here, which I am. I found that when he died at the end, it was just heart-wrenching for me. I was really, really upset with that death. It was very quiet and maybe soothing a bit because you felt like he was being kept there was just, it wasn't fair to him. And I think if you've seen someone on life support, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's hard because you know they're gone, but it's the machines that are keeping them here for you, and that's the worst possible thing. But I like what Tobias mentioned outside the door. He said, if I stay out here, I realize that he could end up waking up. He could just be asleep, and he'll get this big smile on his face, and he will crack another one of his jokes. And all I was thinking about was his statement with regards to being the eye candy, because that was just classic Uriah. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention that is going to be the end, so if you have stuck around for the spoiler portion, you're not going to want to go even further than here if you have not read Allegiant. But Triss goes and is talking to Caleb and realizes that Caleb is only doing this so that Triss will completely forgive him. You see Triss talking to Caleb, and she asks him why he's doing this. Is it because of love, or is it because of wanting to be fully forgiven? And you see Caleb mention he wants Triss to fully forgive him because he didn't mean for that to happen. Now that he has understood more, he understands that what he did was wrong. Triss remembers something that Tobias told her with regards to if you are going to sacrifice yourself for someone else, it needs to be for love. Triss decides that she is going to sacrifice herself for Caleb because she will survive the death serum, because she can survive everything else. She doesn't take into account that if she does die, this is going to be an even bigger weight on Caleb's shoulders, because Kiri is trying to make up for the fact that he almost killed her once. And here she is going to go and, in a way, sacrifice herself for it. So if she dies, it's going to be a weight on his shoulder that he's going to have to bear, and he's probably going to be depressed about it, even though you don't really see that at the end. He's still sad, but he doesn't seem as depressed as I thought he would be. Anyway, Triss goes and she actually makes it through the death serum, and then she gets shot and she dies. That's hard, because I feel like, first off, being shot by the weapon was a little cheaping out, because I feel like the death serum should have still killed her. I feel like it should have been like a slower death, maybe. Maybe she was not really feeling the effects, and then Tobias shows up and they have like a really great night with each other, and then she dies slowly from the death serum. I think that would have been another interesting ending, because I feel like you start off, Triss is able to shoot the gun. She can shoot it well, and then she gets scared of firing guns, weapons, and then you see her killed by a gun, and it kind of was weird, but I understand that she wanted to go with a little bit of a different ending, have her be killed. I'm really happy that Veronica Roth did this. I have been waiting for someone in a dystopian setting to kill off their main character, because if it's such a dangerous world and other people are getting killed off or getting affected by things, why is it that the main character can never die? It also made you realize why there was a dual perspective at this point in the story. Triss is going to die, so you can't really just kill off your main character, your narrator, and not have someone else continue on the story, because the story is just going to end unless you change your writing style for the rest of the story. If you look at Allegiant carefully, I had a feeling that Triss was going to die from the start of this, just because I think there was a lot of controversy with people with regards to this, and I just felt like Veronica Roth might have done that, and you could actually really see the countdown going on in her writing. At different times you would see certain things taking place with Triss's character, and with Triss and Tobias, and Triss and Caleb, and you could really see the countdown kind of going on in this, almost like a 24 hours before, 12 hours before, 1 hour before kind of feeling with regards to the writing of this story. The fact that Triss was shot and she died that way, I just felt like it was a little bit too simple. I felt like the author didn't really think fully through the different options she could have taken for this ending, because I would have preferred, as I said, the death serum slowly killing her and maybe getting like another day with Tobias or something, because I think that would have been a very interesting spin to take. It wouldn't have been like she just got killed, she was murdered, because I think that one kind of makes it a little harder for people to agree with. It makes it a little harder to accept the fact that she was killed. She didn't just slowly die from, say, the death serum, something that she couldn't actually cure herself from. That the guy that killed her, I can't even remember his name actually, he mentions that he has a cure to the death serum. How is that even possible? How can you, that just, it seems so weird, because it's like turning them invincible in a way, and that just, it's weird. I thought it was weird. Anyway, I did really enjoy the ending of this story, but I did have little things that I didn't like with it, such as with the epilogue. It's 2.5 years later, and Tobias still has the urn with Triss's ashes in them. I thought that was a little weird, because it's 2.5 years later. It doesn't seem like someone who's having a hard time letting go. It seems more like a first love, not wanting to let his first love go because then he'll be alone kind of feeling. That's how it came across to me. Anyway, the fact that Tobias was willing to go and zip line and spread Triss's ashes that way, just a touchingly amazing, brilliant scene, and I think it's going to be wonderful to see it on camera, on film, everything for that moment, because I think it's just going to be perfect. Tris is one person who loved ziplining. That was one thing that she thought was brilliant. As Tobias stated, she could fly. She could fly. And I think that was the perfect thing to state. Tris could fly. And Tobias is scared of heights, but he goes and ziplines once for Tris because he knows how much she loved it. And he realizes that connection that Tris had with ziplining. But to spread her ashes that way, I think that is exactly what Tris would have wanted. Veronica Roth decided to stay true to what she thought this needed as an ending. I think that a lot of authors go with what the popular vote, what the populace wants, rather than going what as the author they feel this ending should be. And I think that Veronica Roth did a brilliant job. Overall, I thought that this was a brilliant end to the series. I'm really happy that it ended that way because I really couldn't see anything else happening at the end. I couldn't really see Tobias and Tris getting married and having kids and living a regular life. I didn't see that happening. And I'm really glad that it ended the way it did because it was brilliant. And I've said that enough and I've spoken about this enough. So if you guys would like to talk in the comments down below, feel free. I am going to leave a little marker in the description box below stating that there could be spoilers in the comments, so tread lightly. Anyway guys, I will see you in my next video. Until then, go and pick up a random book and read. Bye guys.